Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Sean Wilkie. Thanks so much for joining us for today's webinar. I'm super excited to have Naomi Murray and Amy Mohl from Brief Media here today with us. Amy and Naomi are friends of mine, and we had the very, fortunate experience to run into each other 2 years in a row at a great conference. This year it was in Nashville, where some of the brightest minds of veterinary medicine come together to discuss some very important topics. And I was in the audience, and I was so excited and kind of inspired by the work that both Amy and Naomi have put together, that I knew we needed to have them on this webinar series. So let's move on to the topic, a little bit more about that. And actually, just before we get into that, I want to give everybody kind of like a sequence of events today. So I'm going to introduce these two lovely people. In just a minute, we're going to run through this presentation for about 30 minutes. We're going to have a quick 10-minute Q&A. And then at the very end, for the last 5 minutes, I'm going to talk to you all a little bit more about what Talkatoo is and show you how it works. So let me introduce today's guests. So today, my name is Sean Wilkie. I'm the CEO of Talkatoo. If you haven't heard of Talkatoo, we're a veterinary dictation software that helps take all the hassle out of typing medical records and doing some documentation, whether it's email or you name it. And my guests today, let's start with Naomi, Dr. Naomi Murray. Dr. Naomi Murray is a DVM and is a Senior Director of Strategy, Sales, and Business Development at Brief Media, publisher of Clinician's Brief, and creator of Plumb's veterinary drug and Plumb's Pro app. And if you want to learn more about that, you'll have to check out the episode of my podcast that I did with Dr. Amy, because it's great. I also do a podcast called the Veterinary Innovation Podcast, and we had a great episode with Dr. Amy on it. After graduating Ross University in 2006, she practiced in both private and corporate practices for 6 years before joining Brief Media's revenue team in 2012. Naomi is passionate about technology. She sure is, in clinical practice and how it can help veterinarians be more efficient and more confident, to decrease burnout and enjoy their career that they have chosen. When Naomi's not focused on all of the great work that she does at Brief Media, she enjoys family life with her family, including cows, horses, pigs, chickens, and her favorite lion cupcake, or her lion cut dog cupcake. Oh, that was a tongue twister, Naomi.
Atrocious. 4 pounds.
So funny. And then Dr. Amy Mohl, DVM. She is the Chief Medical Officer at Brief Media, home of Clinician Briefs and Plumbs, and is a practicing small animal veterinarian in Virginia. You can tell that they're both together on the same frame today, which is pretty cool. She brings nearly 15 years of experience and special interests in the business of veterinary medicine to her role, and is largely focused on finding solutions to make clinical practice better for veterinarians everywhere. When she's not obsessing about the details of the Plumb user experience, and I can attest to that, Amy can be found at home wrangling her 2 elementary age children and 2 pandemic puppies. It happened to you, and you probably got an air fryer too, Amy, during the pandemic, as everybody did. I'm super excited to have you guys both here today. I'm super excited to have you guys both here today. I was taken back by the content, and so I don't want to take any more time. I'm going to be quiet, hand the mic over to you guys, and I'll be back to facilitate questions when you guys are done. Hold on to your hats, everybody.
That's great, Sean. Thank you. Let me just make sure I get the right screen up here.
You only had 2.5 years of practicing this during
We went out of it. So, okay, let's see. Share my screen. Here we go. There it is. I found it. Okay, so as I said, we're so excited to be here, and I'm Naomi. You did a great job with our bios, so I don't need to repeat that for everyone.
And I'm Amy, so excited to be here. So yeah, Sean, you nailed everything about us. So we're just going to jump right into it. So today we are talking about the ever-evolving landscape of technology in the veterinary profession and some opportunities we have ahead of us to improve efficiency and reduce stress, which we all need by leveraging technology in the practice.
That's right. And not only do we have a team of actively practicing veterinarians, we also keep a close pulse on our audience with surveys and other forms of communication. We'd like to start with an overview of the landscape of veterinary medicine and share feedback we gathered from a recent survey. So from our experiences as practicing veterinarians, we know that COVID merely compounded problems that we already had, from client relations to staffing, limited resources, and a whole lot more. We all know veterinarians are struggling. We hear from practice owners like the one on the slide here that they want to keep clients happy and see more pets. But it is a balance and a struggle to prevent burnout from themselves and for their staff, and then of course to meet the demand. So our data from a recent survey supports this challenge. So here's our recent survey of small animal veterinarians, and from both private and corporate practice from our Clinicians Brief audience, we asked vets what their biggest challenges are. So we had over 350 responses, and the most common responses fell into one of two categories. So a lack of time and energy and limited resources and support. So these challenges really feed into each other. And as you can see here, most respondents selected multiple challenges. We're seeing under lack of time and energy, that too much to do, not enough time. Vets are struggling with client communication. They're struggling to find the time to give clients enough information to empower them before they head to the internet, maybe to leave a bad review or find unreliable information. And then also under limited resources and support. So staffing is tough and hiring is super competitive. So you really need a leg up on attracting and retaining talent. And they also struggle with confidence in patient care and finding resources that they need. And these are some of the current challenges they shared with us recently. And Amy's going to touch a little bit on burnout next.
So we all hear about it all the time. Burnout is at an all-time high. Cornell recently released research saying that burnout costs the veterinary industry $2 billion with a B, dollars per year, almost 4% of the industry's total value. It's rough out there right now, and many of us are looking for solutions. We know technology, although often slow to be adopted in our industry, has helped us make huge strides in veterinary medicine. This is one example. Just think about back in the day, if you are of a certain age, how we have to use to develop radiographs, that tiny little dark room with those gross, stinky dump tanks, the long process, dipping your images just to get to the end and realize that you didn't get what you needed. It was blurry or crooked and you had to start over. Hours and hours of time lost just for a radiograph. And now in the click of a button, you have your image, you see exactly what you need, you can send it off for someone to review it, and you're moving on. From our own experiences in practice, we know technology has improved client communication, has improved the quality of patient care in so many different areas, has increased efficiency, and really helps us integrate patient and practice data all into one system.
So in the same survey, we asked them a series of questions on the technology topic, like, do you feel technology is helping your practice better medicine and be more efficient? And if so, what technologies are most valuable to you? And then some questions to help keep a pulse on hiring. So how they are selecting which practice to work for, what they might invest in over the next year in their practice. And here are a few of our key takeaways. So in general, veterinarians tend to be slow adopters of new technology. I don't think that's a surprise to any of us. However, when we ask them if technology helps them practice better medicine and be more efficient, 94% agreed with this statement. So they see the value in technology and they find it to be a vital component to practicing high quality medicine. We followed this up with what technology is most valuable to practices. And leading the pack were digital reference materials like VIN, digital textbooks, social media groups, and journals like Clinician's Brief. And this was followed by electronic medical records and digital radiology support. So things like client communication, texting, video conferencing, digital diagnostic support like digital cytology, AI, and digital prescribing tools were some of the things mentioned a little bit lower on this graph here. And then in the middle, we have clinical decision support tools coming in around 40%. So most vets didn't know what a clinical decision support tool was when we asked, but once we defined it, a larger percentage reported using them and found them to be a valuable tool while practicing. So we defined a clinical decision support tool as a compilation of essential peer-reviewed digital medical references and resources that are continually updated for ease of use in clinical practice.
So we know that veterinarians are looking for clinical support online thanks to our product data on both our free Clinician's Brief website and on Plumb's Pro, our subscription-based clinical decision support tool. We can see veterinarians searching for clinical data, clicking on specific conditions, and looking up drug information. Our Plumb's data shows us that veterinarians are searching for relevant clinical information, an average of 10 events per day. According to our Clinician's Brief website, our audience of small animal vets is most active on our site during the workday, the typical US North American workday, Monday through Friday. And they're searching for clinical terms like this list you see here. I won't read them all out to you, but this is information that really supports the day-to-day general practice kinds of things that we see. When we look at our Plumb's data, we see more than 60% of our subscribers are accessing the clinical and prescribing information that we provide via the mobile app. Veterinarians are busy, they're on the go, they're referencing materials repeatedly throughout their workday, wherever they are. So what types of information are they looking for most? We asked them that too. So what information are veterinarians looking up most frequently? The top answers include drug information, treatment information, pet owner education materials, differential diagnoses, and diagnostic information. Some others that made the list but were a little bit lower were specialist case input, clinical calculators, peer support, and nutrition information. It's clear from the data that veterinarians are depending on technology to make some pretty crucial decisions about diagnoses, treatment, prescriptions, even pet owner support, which leads us to another key finding.
We also asked what challenge or aspect of practice they think would benefit most from a new technology offering. And we really wanted to understand the opportunities to minimize pain points and streamline practices using technology within their day-to-day actions. We wanted to know what technologies practices need or would like to have. And the most common response we saw were around client communication, client education. It takes a lot of their time, a lot of their staff's time, and it's hard to find accurate and reliable information to share. So the remainder of responses were varied. Let's talk about better access to specialist consults, more user-friendly EMR or practice management systems, better process for keeping records, access to clinical information, CE, telemedicine, and more we didn't have space here to include. One of our favorite responses is, where do I begin? This practice clearly had a lot of things to consider when evaluating new technology needs, and there's obviously plenty of room for improvement in a number of areas. So Amy, how can some of the technology improvements have an effect on staffing and recruiting challenges?
So we know there are lots of challenges around staffing and recruiting these days. It's just challenging in all regards. We asked our readers if technology matters in choosing where to work. 47% said yes, it's something they consider when they're choosing a job. When we asked if technology impacted job satisfaction, so retaining that staff, over 75% of respondents shared that they feel new technology and clinical tools are moderately to extremely important to their job satisfaction. When we look at the other factors veterinarians consider when they're choosing where they'll work, it's no surprise that quality of medicine is number one at 91%, salary and benefits number two at 77%, doctor to technician ratio, and that's where that staffing piece comes in, and then technology at the practice, rounded out by education and training and access to specialists and referral facilities.
So next, we wanted to know what veterinarians were planning to invest in over the next year. And overwhelmingly, the number one investment for practices will be in their staff at 63%. And this is followed by equipment, remodeling, marketing, and practice management systems. We know investing in technology is part of investing in staff, and making sure you have the tools your team needs to succeed and have job satisfaction is really important. Remember, 91% say the quality of medicine at the practice influences their decision to join the team, and 94% recognize that technology helps them practice better medicine and be more efficient. We also know it is important to make sure technology implemented works and that users feel comfortable with it and that they actually use it. Which brings us to our question of what they need to readily adopt new technology. And survey says a little bit of everything. They want to be sure they're properly trained, whether that's in person, group training, on demand, or one-on-one. They will take written material and would love a contact to chat with if questions arise. So the take-home message is they would like a more formal training of some sort to make sure everyone is comfortable with the new technology and more likely to readily adopt and use it. And I think we're close to the end here. So Amy, let's recap. What do we need to remember from all of this data?
Absolutely. So what does this all mean? The profession is struggling, vets are overworked and understaffed. There's so much good we can do in the profession, and a lot of veterinarians who really want, and other companies who really want to put in the effort to figure out solutions to help address these challenges. We know technology can help. First, investing in the right technologies to help reduce burnout, increase efficiency, and provide a higher level of care, all of which helps keep staff and clients happy. Second, remember that technology can help you recruit and retain talent. If you're not highlighting your technology resources in your practice, definitely start now. If you don't have anything to highlight in your practice around technology, figure out what makes sense for your practice and start changing that. And then finally, help your teams streamline their pain points. Provide tools for client education and client communication to really provide a better experience for pet owners and fewer pain points for the veterinary team. Look for areas where we can leverage technology to support our teams, improve the patient and client experience, and make life a little bit easier for everyone. Everyone benefits. We'll leave you with this thought from another clinician's brief reader, acknowledging some of the challenges in our profession, but reminding us all of the important work veterinarians do every day.
You guys are awesome. And I've got so many things that I just want to jump into and start to talk about. So, I mean, at my vantage point, co-hosting this podcast that I started about 3 years ago, Amy, you've been on the podcast. I'm kind of at like the epicenter of technology and veterinary medicine. I've got to see a lot of different innovation and a lot of different tools that are kind of in the hands for veterinarians. But one of the things that I always hear from our audience and other people through comments or social media is they don't even know where to begin. So if I've just looked at your presentation and I'm thinking, you know, maybe technology could be a way out or a retention or an attraction tool for new employees, where do we go from here? What suggestions or advice do the two of you have?
I'll jump in if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
go for it.
I think what's really unique about the veterinary industry is that that answer is different for every single practice. So for us, when we look at Plums and think about Plums as a technology tool that can help, the way we came about planning how can we make a difference is to sit down and identify the biggest pain points. And I think it's the same at an individual practice level. You have to sit down and figure out what are the biggest pain points for your particular team, for your particular workflow, and how can you use technology to address that? So it might be a new EMR for one practice, it might be dictation software for another practice, it might be pet owner education materials for another. I know in my personal practice, my biggest pain point is the amount of time and lack of resources I spend educating pet owners, making sure they have everything they need. So that's an area where I really focused in the context of Plums and building that out, of selfishly solving my own pain point, because I know I'm not the only veterinarian that has that. So I think you do have to sit down and look in your specific situation, what hurts the most, and start there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point, Naomi. I'm just going to jump in and then I'll go right back to you. But don't just look from your own point of view. You know, like build a little technology SWAT team. So a tech that you trust, somebody that's a CSR, get a variety of all of the different people and sit down and ask that question and talk about it together. And then use that same little group to evaluate technology. So it's one of the tricks that I've, don't carry this as the owner, don't put that burden just on your shoulders, because if you involve your team is going to support whatever decision you've made together instead of, why are we doing this? This is a bad idea. So Amy or Naomi, over to you.
I was just gonna say, your team's pain point may not be the same as your pain points as the
Yes.
owner, and that is more important to address first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, don't be scared of it, right? Like a lot of people want to push it off. They're too busy. There's not enough time. The training is too big. But what we're finding is that actually, if you have a good onboarding protocol, it doesn't actually take that much time, and it makes your life a lot easier. And then you're saving time in the long run. So just be open-minded and have a chat with your team about doing that. And especially if everyone's on board, it's very easy to implement some of these things that make your life easier.
Yeah, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Sorry, Amy, I just couldn't help myself. I think it's really important to have those conversations. Don't assume that everything is going to be difficult. I'll give you an example. Our onboarding at Talkatoo is 10 to 15 minutes. And it's 10 to 15 minutes because we understand our customers and we know that they do not want to sit around all morning. They've got 100 other things that they've got to get through and get done. So a lot of companies that sell to veterinarians and a lot of technology solutions out there have that in mind. So don't necessarily make a problem that doesn't exist. Ask the questions, get that little committee together and kind of get going. I love the next one. Here's another question. So AI is being thrown around a lot these days. I'm just going to be a little bit more blunt than the customer. What the hell does that mean in the context of veterinary medicine? Seriously, AI, artificial intelligence, the robots are going to come over and take over our jobs. What is AI in vet med to both of you today?
Well, I certainly am not an expert nor have any direct experience in AI, but there is a lot of chatter. There are a number of different tools out there that lean on AI or say they are using AI. From my perspective, it's just like any other technology. You have to understand the specific tool that you're looking at and what value AI brings. It's a really cool up here thought to me, understanding how I could implement it in practice, in what tool, what does this tool do? What does the AI do? Does it introduce any element of risk or not understanding or taking that thinking away? I will admit I'm a huge control freak, so I have some concerns about handing over any decision making to a computer, but I think there's so much opportunity. We know they're using it in human medicine. We know there are tools that leverage it. I personally don't know enough to say, use this one, don't use that one, this is how they use. But I think just like anything else, you have to be open to learning and understanding.
Yeah, and I don't think it's not going to take the veterinarian's role away by any means. So just kind of opening up, learning about it. I mean, with Plumb's Pro, I don't know if it's specifically AI, but one day, I would love to see where we can suggest, okay, you're looking this up, but here's this, and this based on, what other users are normally in this disease process, what you need to be thinking about. So I think there's definitely room for, some of these things that help guide veterinarians and just make us quicker. And, we're human, we can't remember everything. It just kind of helps us on that checklist to make sure we're not forgetting anything.
Yeah, I think the best way to think of AI in vet med is it's an augmentation tool. So it's like that clinical support decision making.
Yeah.
There is areas where it's taking off. Digital radiology is one of them. Having a model, which is just a bunch of information, a bunch of data that understands how to look at other radiographs and say, hey, I think there might be something here. And that is AI. It's at the most ignorant level. That's what it is. We leverage AI. We think you said that, so we're going to type it out. Talkatoo is an AI company. And AI is not this big, complex thing that people like to make it out to be. It's literally like a bunch of data and a way to filter that data for decision making or action. So it's coming, it's here, and self-serving. Check out Talkatoo. We're an AI company. Mohl is another one that I think is really cool. It's a digital radiology company created by two brothers, one software developer, one veterinary radiologist, and the brother was sick of going to visit his brother, only to sit him go to his house and watch him read radiographs all night long instead of going out to dinner with each other. So they've created this solution. Signal Pet is another one. And there's a bunch of emerging AI companies. I love talking to them, so check out my podcast because there's a lot of examples of them there. Another question. Are there any resources available to help me get a better understanding of what new technologies are and what I should consider for my practice? That's a great idea for a new webinar, and we've talked about it, so we may just do that. But Amy and Naomi, what do you guys think of this question?
Oh, I don't know of any checklists out there, but I think there are plenty of technology like the Innovation Summit and your resources that you have, Sean, I think are a great place to start so that you kind of get a feel for what's out there. But if you do identify that pain point within your practice that you're looking for, just kind of searching along those lines, I bet there's something out there that's offering, a solution to that challenge.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think like there's usually three of everything. So have three conversations, right? There's three companies that are in our space, have three conversations. And, ultimately, I think when you're going down that road to get technology to assist you in your practice, don't forget one very powerful instrument you have at your disposal, which is your gut and your intuition. Use that like the number one tool in your arsenal when you're making technology buying decisions. You probably won't be wrong.
Yeah.
Amy, you were going to say?
Almost exactly what you said. The only other thing I was going to add is, your podcast is a great source to learn about up and coming new technologies. We also know as a profession, we're a little bit technology averse, but there are plenty of people out there talking about the great solutions they found. So if you step out and engage with other veterinarians, in person, in real life, which we get to do more and more, or out, and there's tons of really active Facebook groups where veterinarians are talking about the products that they're using, the technology that they're finding that works. It's not a bad idea to get some opinions before you go into those three conversations and follow your gut, but just to know what people are using and how they're finding things successful.
Yeah, that's a totally great recommendation. Ask your peers, network, go have conversations with people. There's lots of good stuff out there. Why are veterinarians so adverse to technology, and how do we change these attitudes? Now we're into a philosophical conversation. Whoever wants to take this one, I'm not taking it.
Well, I can tell you from our research that informed this presentation, I think a huge reason is time. We just don't have time to sit down and figure it out or learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for some reason by nature, we're just a little bit skeptical, and, we just like to see the research and the proof before we jump on the bandwagon often. So.
Yeah, but I think also like let's throw veterinary medicine a bone and throw the people that are on this call a bone. COVID changed everything. Like I was on a Zoom call with 100 veterinarians that were all across the country a couple months ago, and I was like, "What? 3 years ago, this was not possible." So I think there's lots of good things happening, and I think there is change afoot, which is pretty exciting for the whole industry.
Yeah, it is.
So we are out of questions, and you guys blew through your time very quick. I've got a few selfish questions. So I want to dig into a few things that I saw in your presentation and give people a chance to come up with some more questions. So client communication, it's the number one, right? So we often have a lot of people that come to Talkatoo not to do medical records, but to speed up client communication. They want to pick up a microphone, they want to be able to send an email or a text, and they don't want to have to sit there for 30 minutes typing it. So we help from that regard. What other technologies, suggestions do you have for that big, hairy problem? And I know this might be a softball for you guys because I know with it. So go ahead.
You want to
Go ahead. This is her favorite
Shameless.
part. So
So shameless
has-
self-promotion. So built into our Plumb's platforms, both Plumb's veterinary drugs and our new Plumb's Pro, which is the full clinical decision support. We've built out a really robust library of pet owner education handouts. You know, it's something that they're templated, they're question and answer format. They are written by general practitioners. They are peer reviewed, and then they are reviewed by a pet owner who has no medical background to make sure that they're easy to understand. So we've got hundreds of these guides that you can easily print or email and send directly from our platform to the pet owner. So that was my own selfish. I spend all this time writing on sticky notes in my practices. I want to be able to email something directly to the pet owners about the stuff I see every day, not just the weird stuff, but every ear infection goes home now with a patient guide. Every medication that I dispense goes home with the medication guides. Oh, Naomi's bringing up the list now. So that, for me, that's something that I can do it in the room when I'm with the patient. I can do it when I'm on the phone. I can email them that information, or if I'm not there, because I do this, so I'm not in the clinic all the time, my staff can talk to my clients and get in and send this as well. So that, for me, is the biggest.
they can help with going over like your treatment plan too. So there are several, like endocrine, Addisonian or Cushing's patients, and you're like, all right, here's what we're going to do to diagnose this patient. Here's how we're going to have to manage them. It's just very in depth. So we've built some of these to really help with that conversation and help them too. If they've forgotten to ask a question when they're in the office, they can refer back to this and have a lot of guidance.
And I know from a client that they love it because they use a combination of talking to and your handouts to do written emails to the clients at the end of their visit. So pretty awesome tool. So definitely worth checking out. And great job with the softball. You guys caught it. Next one I want to talk about, and Naomi, I was super impressed that we've jumped into another screen share. It's like we've got this technology thing covered. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and I think that this is an odd one. It's odd because it seems like we're talking about the 1990s. No, early 2000s. Clinic-wide in-person training. And I'll tell you, I initially thought it was odd. And then I came and saw you guys and saw this information and we just tried it. Oh my God, what a difference. So we went down to a bunch of hospitals, 15 hospitals in Florida. We went on site. We got to talk to everybody. We trained them quickly. We didn't interrupt their day. We made time for them when they had time for us. And our adoption of our software was like 110% more than it would have been if we tried to do it over a Zoom webinar, whatever. So what more details do you have on this?
No, that's exactly right. So Amy and our technology team, they're kind of in the DC area, and they've been infiltrating clinics in their area, going in, doing in-person training, and just kind of asking questions. And Rodney and I have been doing it here in our area in Tulsa. And it's amazing. I mean, they're so welcoming. They're like, yes, come in, show me what you have. I'm having this issue. And we can really jump into things that wouldn't come up on a Zoom instead of, just kind of dictating XYZ, here's what you need to learn. Other conversations come up and they really immerse themselves in the product and want to learn everything. And even, the day-to-day clinic things that come up that they may not get the chance to ask. So we have seen a lot of receptivity to going in the clinic and not just in our local areas. I mean, we're having requests all over the nation. So
I think it's a byproduct of COVID too.
Yeah.
Everyone is so ready to get back to some of that connection, and to have that connection and get to learn something cool makes it even more appealing than it was way back when.
And I think like the most undervalued thing is relationship building and human connection. If I learn about your tools on site, in person, and God forbid we get to go have lunch with the medical director, the person that's dealing with the rollout of the solution, you build a relationship. And that relationship helps you when you run into issues because you feel connected with the company. It's expensive, but I think one thing that we need to keep in mind in veterinary medicine is sometimes the cheaper option is not necessarily the better option.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, on that note, you two, it was my absolute distinguished pleasure to have you guys join and to share this amazing information with our guests. And I'm going to do a quick little demo of Talkatoo and get out of here. So thanks for joining us. And we'll see you again next year somewheres. I don't know where.
Sounds great. Thanks,
Yes.
Sean.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. So as promised, we're going to do a little demo of Talkatoo. It's a super quick demo, so don't think I'm going to keep you here for half an hour. This is Talkatoo, our little software. It's an overlay for the Windows app or Windows computer or Mac computer, which allows you to take your voice and turn it into text anywhere that you can type. So into Avamark, into Cornerstone, into your email. If you can use the keyboard, you can use Talkatoo. So let me just show you quickly how it works. I'm going to hit start dictation. Rosie jumped out of a truck yesterday and her owner noticed that she was limping. Period. New paragraph. And so maybe I want to write an email now. So writing an email is literally as easy as talking. Period. It was great to have Amy and Naomi on our webinar series today. I'm definitely going to invite them back, and hopefully I'll be able to get a copy of their presentation to share with anybody that wants it. So you can see that typing an email or a client communication is super duper easy. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for attending our webinar and let you know if you have any questions, I'm going to stick on to answer them about Talkatoo. But it was a real pleasure, and use the chat. If you've got any questions, I'll hang on just for a couple of minutes. It'll finish typing this out and I'll be all done. And I'm checking the questions and we don't have any. So thank you so much for staying on with me. Check out talkatoo.com, book a demo. We'd love to show you how our software works, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.